Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So today is going to be another review of Love and Marriage Huntsville, Season 3, Episode 11. I now pronounce you depressed. This was a pretty good episode. I thought this episode was really good. It was, to me, it kind of dealt into some really deep issues, but let's go ahead and get started. It starts off with Kimmy and Maurice. They're in their room. They're still in Las Vegas. This is their last night in Vegas. They're in their room. I don't know what they were doing, but Kimmy was recounting to Maurice the details of what happened on the girls' trip, because they all went out the night before. The girls were with the girls, the guys with the guys. And so she was telling him, basically what happened with the girls, about the incident between what's her name, Tiffany and Tisha, Tiffany and Destiny, and how Tiffany and Destiny, their little argument started at the club and it continued on to the bus, but they didn't show us that. And of course, Maurice was, I think he was like tight-lipped about what the guys did. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter. Then we go to Lewis and Tiffany. We go into their room. Tiffany's telling her husband how Destiny had threatened to drag her, so on and so forth. I don't remember what her husband said because it really wasn't that important. Moving on to Melody and Destiny. So Melody and Destiny, they're having a conversation. I think they're having lunch or breakfast or something together. And they're talking about how it seems like to Destiny, she said that every time, you come to Tiffany's defense. When me and her are going at it, you always jump to her side and you're always defending her. And Melody was trying to say, I'm not defending her. I'm not jumping to her side. It's just that I'm closer to you and I know how you are. So when I see you acting out of character, I step in to kind of diffuse the situation, to kind of calm you down, in so many words. That's what she was saying. And Melody said, not Melody, but Destiny said, but you don't even really give me a chance to go out of my character, because when I try to get back at her, you always shut me down. You let her say whatever she wants to say, and then when I react, you jump in to shush me. So basically, and then Melody says at the end of all that, Melody says, well, sometimes your delivery, you may have a good point, you may be giving a good message, but your delivery can kind of come off mean. And then they show clips of Destiny going at it with Kimmy, Destiny going at it with someone else, and like she kind of has like a sharp tongue. I mean, how she reacted. So Destiny was like, well, how was I being mean? And then Melody said, well, when Tiffany was talking to Tisha, you're making all these rude faces, that was mean. And you intervene yourself into a conversation that had nothing to do with you because Tiffany was addressing Tisha. And then Destiny was trying to say, well, she did direct something to me and I was just reacting. So they're just basically talking about that, moving on from that. Okay. Now we go to Letitia and Marcel. Okay. So they're in the bed together, and Tisha brings up how Tiffany was telling her about, my husband said that your husband said that you have a lot of insecurities and that you're really insecure about yourself and you're really insecure about your husband. So she brings that up to Marcel. And Marcel was kind of like, why are you even giving this any life? And Tisha's like, well, all these rumors that are circulating about you, and it's not just from the blogs or whatever, it's from people that actually know me, my family members, my friends, they've come to me with all these, rumors about you, and it kind of makes me, I guess, she has doubts about her marriage. So Marcel tells her that there's nothing anybody could ever say to him that would have him doubt Tisha. Absolutely nothing. So he's like, if you know what we got, and I'm telling you, nothing's happening, I'm not doing anything, why are you letting other people affect you? Because no one can make me think of you in any kind of negative way. No one can shed a negative light on you as far as I'm concerned, because I know who you are and I know what we have, which is a good point. But to me, that's kind of like, I don't know. it kind of seems, okay, let's just move on. Okay. So Marcel says if Tisha wouldn't take financial advice Because he asked her, these people that are putting these doubts in your head, would you go to them for business advice? She said no. He says, would you go to them for financial advice? She said no. So why do you go to them for marital advice? Why would you listen to them on anything they have to say about our marriage? Anything else, you wouldn't go to them because you would understand they don't know anything. And they really, really don't know anything about what's going on in our home. But for whatever reason, you pay attention to what they say about us. Another good point. He should have been a lawyer. So Marcel asks her, what can he do to make her feel more secure? Which was, I'm glad that he did. I'm so glad that he asked her that, because he sees that his wife is troubled, whether it's valid or not valid, whether it's based in reality or fact or it's not. He sees that she's troubled, and so he asked her, so what can I do, to make you feel better, to make you feel more secure? And she says that she wants him to spend more time with the family. And she says, she's tired of taking vacations alone with just her and the kids. And so that made me think to myself, okay, Marcel claims, he works a lot and he has to work a lot, because he's trying to build generational wealth for his children and generations to come, which is very admirable. But you, as a entrepreneur, you own your own business. You don't clock in and clock out. You are nobody's time but your own. You cannot take time to take a vacation with your family. If you can't be home every night to tuck the kids in bed, granted. If you can't be there in the morning to have breakfast with everybody before they go to school, okay, fine, we get it. If you can't just lounge around with your wife watching Netflix, all night long, okay, fine. But, vacations are planned, and you try to find time of where you can, fit in some time to be with your family. And it just made me really sad that Tisha goes on vacation to just turn the kids and he doesn't come along. That made me really sad to hear that. That was kind of heartbreaking, Tisha. Okay. So Marcel says that he does want to spend more time with his family, but work is necessary. He's got to work. He's got to put in these hours, because he gave an example. He says, I don't know, I guess one of the kids is interested in photography or something. He gave an example that, if so-and-so wants to go into photography, when they decide to do that, I don't want them to worry about money. So whatever their children decide to do in the future, he doesn't want money to be an area of concern of whether or not they would be able to follow their dreams. He wants to make sure that the money is always there to allow his children to pursue their dreams and not focus on the finances of whether or not they can afford it, which to me, obviously, that's a wonderful thing for a parent to say. It's a wonderful thing for a parent to do. And I hope that he's genuine about this, because I feel like, and this is what I was going to say before, but I stopped myself because I don't want to rain on this, this beautiful moment that they had. But I kind of wonder if possibly he knows what to say to kind of keep her at bay, to kind of calm her down. And but it may not be genuine. But I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give Marcel the benefit of the doubt that he works a lot and he can't spend time with his family because he's trying to build this empire for his family. So Tisha kind of hints at a vow renewal, having like a spontaneous or whatever vow renewal. And Marcel, he's not liking that. He kind of lets her know straight up that that's not what he wants to do at all. And he says, if you want to surprise me with something, why don't you surprise me with, and he is indicating some adult activity. Why don't you surprise me with that instead of a vow renewal? And yeah, he was just joking and whatnot. And okay. And this is another thing about that whole scene. When she hinted at the vow renewal and he shut that down, he's like, I don't want to do that. It makes me wonder, okay, Tisha, do you not know your husband? Do you not understand, who you're married to? Because that's not something that everybody would want to do. I wouldn't want to do that. I don't see no purpose of doing that. If my husband took me to Vegas and says, I'm going to surprise you with a vow renewal, I probably wouldn't be too keen about it. I'd probably just go ahead and do it, if that's what he wanted to do. But that's not something that I find pleasurable or romantic or anything like that. I wouldn't want to do it. So And so my husband knows me enough to know not to do something like that. Just like I wouldn't want a surprise birthday party. That's not my thing. Anybody who knows me knows I would not want a surprise birthday party. Now, a surprise birthday dinner, maybe, but not a surprise birthday party. So shouldn't she know her husband enough that, that he would not want something like that? But anyways, so he was like, no, I don't want that. Now we're going to go to Tisha, Tiffany, and Lewis. So I think it was Tisha comes into Tiffany's room. I think her husband's there. And Tisha basically says, I talked to Marcel about what you told me. And, we talked about that. I don't know what she said in detail about what she told Tiffany about that conversation she had with her husband. But she basically told Tiffany, what you said was just not at the right time when you told me that. We're out having a girls' trip, having a girls' night out, and you brought that up, and the timing was just bad. And so Tiffany accepts that. And so they kind of, I don't want to say reconcile because there was never really a rift between them. But they were kind of like, okay, we're good. We understand that your timing was wrong. I addressed it with my husband, so this is over and done with. And so now we're just going to move on. That's what they decide to do. Then Tisha talks about how she tells Tiffany and Lewis how Marcel does not want to do the vow renewal. And for some reason, which I thought was kind of strange, and I don't know if it was like the producers pushing this, like pushing Lewis to say this or what, but Lewis basically was kind of like encouraging Tisha to move forward with it. So, but he didn't come right out and say, no, you should still do it. He basically told her, well, do what's in your heart. Do what your heart wants you to do. And we know Tisha wants to do the vow renewal. She does want to do that. She wishes that they could do that. So Lewis is like, do what your heart tells you to do. And I was kind of like, okay, you don't know Marcel, then you know that he wouldn't be down with that. So why would you encourage her to do that? And after she just told you that he didn't want to do that, you're going to still kind of like low-key encourage her to still do that. Whatever. So it's their last night in Vegas. They all get in the bus. Everybody's on the bus on the way to the chapel. But I don't think everyone knew where they were going other than Tisha. And I don't know who else knew. But, they're all going to the chapel, but I don't think anybody knew other than Tisha. So they're all on the bus. They talk about the wardrobe malfunctions, the lap dances from the previous night. Because the previous night when they were partying, Tiffany's whole top came apart. And we didn't see that in the previous week's episode, but we saw it whenever the show aired. Her whole top just came apart. And then Mel compliments Martell. She told Martell that he actually looked nice. And I thought, wow, that was really sweet of her to do that. That was really nice of her. Kimmy jokes about the Holtz possibly renewing. Maybe, I guess they did know that they were going to the chapel because Kimmy talked about how, what if Melody and Martell renewed their vows? And then in her confessional, Melody said, people need to understand, it's just not going to happen. There will never be a reconciliation between me and Martell. People always are hinting, joking, playing about me and him getting back together, and it's just not going to happen. But never say never, Mel. You never know. So now they're at the chapel. Now, Marceau says in his confessional that when they arrived at the chapel, he was like, this is what he says in his confessional, was Tisha testing him to see if he would actually still say no to the vow renewal in a public setting? Kind of like she probably thought, well, if we're in front of all of our friends, he's not going to back down on it. He's going to go through with it because there's no way he's going to deny it or deny me or deny this whole thing in front of our friends. But little did she know, he wasn't down with it. So they're at the chapel, and Tisha, for whatever reason, doesn't have the guts to be like, okay, we are here for me and Marceau's vow renewal. This is what we're here for. She was just like, well, does anybody here, and they're all standing around the middle of the aisle, does anybody here want to renew anything? I was like, what? You brought these people here all dressed up. You brought them to this chapel, everyone thinking that you're going to do this vow renewal with your husband. And now you're going to act like, what? Tisha, what? Why didn't you just say, this is what we're here for? We're here. Maybe if she would have kind of been a little bit more assertive about it, he would have done it. But because she opened up this door, this huge, wide open door, she opened it up with, does anybody want to renew anything? That was an opportunity for him to be like, not me. I'm not doing that. And that's exactly what he did. He was like, no, I'm not here for that. Does anybody else want to renew anything? And that's when Tiffany and Lewis stepped up and said that they were going to go ahead and renew their vows. But the funny thing is, they had just gotten married. They're still basically newlyweds. They haven't even been married a whole year. They've been married 11 months exactly. So they step up and they're like, well, we'll go ahead and renew ours. And then Martell in his confession said, it's amazing that Tisha wanted to express her love for her husband by doing this whole vow renewal. And it would have been more amazing if Martell felt the same way. And I thought that was hilarious that he said that. And Maurice, Marcel's brother, Kimmy's husband, Maurice Scott says in his confessional that Martell is just not that kind of guy, and that Tisha should have known better, that he was not going to be down with that, because he's just not that guy, that he's just not that kind of guy that's going to be down with the surprises and the whole, trying to be all romantic or whatever in public. That's just not his thing. So they go ahead, and renew. So Lewis and Tiffany, they go ahead because at this point, the officiant, I couldn't call that woman a pastor. The officiant shows up and she is ready to do the vow renewal. And so I guess she asked who's going to be doing the vow renewal, and Tiffany and Lewis step up. And it was like so crazy to me that they would do this. I'm just like, Tisha, you paid for this. You paid for the venue. You paid for the services for you and your husband to do this. And you're just going to sit back and let these newbies take over and do theirs. Why couldn't you just be like, okay, let's just go? Or why even show up at the chapel at all? Because y'all not going to get a vow renewal on my dime, on my time. No, that's not going to happen. Especially when y'all are newlyweds. Now, I wish that it would have been great if the Scotts would have done it. Kimmy and... oh, no, they're still new, too. They're still kind of, they got married like 2 or 3 years ago, so they're still kind of new, too. But it would have been, at least it would have been better if Maurice and Kimmy had done it instead of the newbies. Okay, where are we at here? So, Martell said from where he was sitting, because he was sitting behind everybody else. So Martell made a comment about how, some people don't even make it to 11 months. And Destiny had overheard that, and Destiny was kind of triggered because her marriage was also extremely short-lived. And Destiny said that, so they're up, so the newlyweds are up there, the newbies are up there, Tiffany and Lewis exchanging their vows. And I guess when the officiant asked Tiffany, do you take this man, blah, 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 to be your husband again, or whatever she said, Tiffany goes, I absolutely do. And so in her confessional, Destiny said, Tiffany is just so extra. She just had to say, I absolutely do. Why couldn't she just say, I do, and be done with it? And then Marcel said that, when it comes time for the vow renewal, he wants to do it his way, and it's going to be, a lot better planned out than this whole quick trip to Vegas thing. He didn't want to do it that way. And then in his confessional, him and Tisha's confessional, when they do the couple confessional, he was like, why go to Vegas to do a vow renewal? Would you go to Vegas to refinance your home, to renew your mortgage? Why go to Vegas for that? And I'm just like, what? What are you talking about, Marcel? Like, why in the world? I mean, how can you compare the two? Refinancing your home and a vow renewal? And why would anybody refinance their home in Vegas? Like, if they don't... What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. That was just, like, so out of the blue. But Tisha, she probably buys that. She's probably like, oh, yeah, I see what you mean. You're right. Maybe that's what she's... Because Marcel just has a way... Okay, look. Okay, I'm not going to say that Tisha's dumb. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that she's dumb. But I think that Marcel has a way to convince her to think a certain way, and it seems like she just kind of goes along with it. My only question is she really going along with it because she really believes him, or is she going along with it because she doesn't want to argue with him? Because I don't understand how she could have sat there in the confessional, in the couple's confessional, when he turned to her and said, would you renew your mortgage in Vegas? So why would you renew your vows in Vegas? Your vows in Vegas. Why wouldn't she say to him, what are you talking about? You're comparing apples to nothing. What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. You're not making any sense. The whole trip was for their 15th anniversary, to celebrate their 15th year wedding anniversary. That was the whole purpose of the trip. Okay? Why wouldn't you do a vow renewal there? The whole purpose of it was to celebrate your marriage, to celebrate being together for 15 years, being married for 15 years. It made perfect sense. People go to Vegas to get married. It's kind of like, Vegas probably sees more weddings than any other state. People will travel from all over the world to Vegas just to get married. Why wouldn't you do a vow renewal there? They have chapels all over the place. It is the perfect place to get married, renew your vows, celebrate your marriage. That's where people do stuff like that. I mean, I don't understand why it was so crazy and odd, and it didn't make any sense to Marcel that they would do a vow renewal in Vegas. I don't. But then again, he didn't want to do a vow renewal period. Now, why didn't he want to do the vow renewal? Let's talk about that. Why wouldn't he want to do a vow renewal? What was so bad about getting up there in this little chapel in front of a handful of friends, people that you're close to? It's not like a room full of people. It wasn't like 100 people showed up. It was just a handful of your friends that you feel very comfortable with traveling to Vegas with. Why wouldn't you get up there, stand in front of the officiant, hold your wife's hand, look at her face, let the officiant say whatever they got to say I do, and it's over. I mean, the whole thing would have been over in 5 minutes. You know that this was important to your wife. You know this is something that she really wanted, because I'm pretty sure she wanted to show off to everybody that her marriage is very much intact and that her and Marceau are very, very happy together. That's why they're doing this vow renewal. You know that this would make Tisha extremely happy. She put in the effort, even if it was just picking up the phone and making a call and then, Venmoing or Cash Apping the deposit or the payment for it. And the whole thing took, a minute to do over the phone. Even if that was all the effort that she put in an effort. She went through the whole thought process of planning a vow renewal for you and her. And you can't even go through with it just to make your wife happy. Because you know what? The whole time, even though Marcel had told her he didn't want to do it, I truly thought that he was going to do it. Like at the last minute that he was going to do it. I truly thought that he was. I was like, there's no way he's going to embarrass his wife and not go through with it when it's so simple. It's not like you're planning an entire wedding. It's not like you have to have groomsmen and, buy an outfit and do this and do that and pay for the caterer and pay for all this stuff. It was just a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I do, let's go eat. That's it. And he couldn't even do that. And I was like, that is really crappy of you, Marcel. That is really, 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 really crappy of you. That you would, and in front of her friends and on this damn show, in front of all these people that are watching this show, you're going to make your wife look like a fool. Again, moving on. So even Mel was like, why can't you just get up there and just do it? Or just get up there after Tiffany and Louis did their whole vow exchange or whatever the hell. Mel was like, Marcel, why can't you just get up there and just talk about how much you love your wife? That would have been harder than the actual vow renewal, because he would have to actually think about what to say. The vow renewal, all he had to say is just look at your wife, say I do, she says I do, and then y'all are done. You can even do that just to make your wife happy this one time. Just to do one thing her way. Couldn't do it. Now they all go to dinner. They go to the Gordon Ramsay restaurant while they're all sitting at dinner. I don't know why. Oh, I guess for the cameras. I was like, why are they all seated in this long table, all facing one way? But I guess so we can see everybody's face. So Martell says that he might get married again because they were talking about how they were all there for each other. I think it was Kimmy. I don't know who brought it up. Somebody brought it up how they were all there for each other for their weddings and the vow renewal and their anniversaries and stuff. And then Kimmy said, but with the Holts, we're not gonna do anything more for them. And Martell was like, hold up, hold up, hold up. I might get married again. Don't count me out. I just might get married again. And he says, I like being married. I love being married, and I might get married again. And then he goes, you never know. I might get married to Melody. I don't know why he said that, because that triggered Mel. That got her going. And so Mel says that Martell doesn't want her to be happy, and that so she brings up how at some point, I don't know when, Martell had told her that he never wanted to see her happy with anyone else, and that he hopes that someone will break her heart. And Maurice says, well, do you know why he said that? He said that because he still loves you. He doesn't want to see another man make you happy. And then Martell said that because that what did Marcel said about that? So Marcel said that Martell, when he was married to Melody, he would always talk about how he was this great husband because he's there taking care of his kids, doing the things that most men are not doing, which is being home every day, taking care of the kids or whatever. But the thing is, what he proclaimed to be, it really wasn't who he was. He wasn't the best husband. I don't know. He wasn't the best husband. And so, Melody definitely had agreed to that. And Marcel says that there's a limit. Oh, then Marcel wanted to bring up the whole pillow talk thing. So after we get off, thank God we got off of Melody and Martell, because I thought it was going to start a whole nother argument. I thought they were going to start throwing knives and spoons and throwing food at each other. I thought it was going to get completely out of hand, but thank God it didn't. So then Marceau says, now they all were sitting side by side, except for Marceau and Louis. They were both sitting at the opposite ends of the table, this really long table. And so Marceau says across the table, he says that there needs to be a limit on the pillow talk, because he didn't like how Louis told Tiffany about what he said about Tisha. And Marceau said, if I wanted Tisha to know, I would have told her. Obviously, I didn't want her to know. That's why I was telling y'all. And then Tiffany jumps in and says, well, maybe you need to communicate with your wife. And then Marceau says, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Louis. And then Louis says, you know what? You don't even have to talk for me. He was telling his wife, you don't even have to talk to me because I got this. So Louis says to him, if you would have spoken to your wife about it, it never would have come around full circle back to you if you would have already talked to her about it in the beginning. And he talks about how they need to communicate better. And Louis said, well, him and his wife needed to communicate better. And then Louis said, well, if you had a problem with me telling my wife, then why didn't you just say so? Why didn't you just say, hey, I'm about to tell you something, but don't tell nobody else. It all stops right here. And then Marcel was like, I don't have to give a disclosure. We're guys hanging out as friends, we're chopping it up. I don't have to give a disclosure. You should already know that what we talk about amongst ourselves should kind of stay amongst ourselves, even though there's a camera there for the world to watch. But I guess producers maybe would have made the decision to cut it out, I guess. I don't know. But he was like, if we're all hanging out as boys, just having a good time, chopping it up, you should already know that it stays in the group. You don't go home and tell your wife and blab to your wife about everything that we talked about. And so Louis was kind of like, okay, yeah, you're right. And then in Tiffany and Louis's confessional, they said, well, this is the reason why, Marcel and Tisha's marriage is so messed up, because they don't communicate with each other. And I'm like, who died and made y'all the experts of marriage? And y'all been married 11 months, Mr. and Mrs. 11 months. Who died and made y'all the experts on how people should conduct their marriages? And y'all both have divorces under your belts. And y'all have only been married less than a year. Who were you to give it? Oh, anyways, moving on. The Lewises, whatever their name is, Tiffany and Louis, they really kind of get under my skin. The way that they act like they're just so holier than thou, and that their marriage is just so perfect. And, they just got it going on like that in the marriage department. And it's just icky. Okay, Maurice asked Maurice Scott asked, how important is happiness? And then Mel said, the question really should be how detrimental depression how detrimental depression can be. So then, which is kind of, now that I think about it, I'm kind of like, okay, Maurice was asking about how important is happiness. I think that's what he asked. How important is happiness? How important happiness is. And then Mel just cuts in and says, well, the real question is how detrimental depression can be. And I was like, how did that correlate? But anyways, it was a good thing she brought it up, because it began this whole discussion about depression, and the whole thing with the African American community and not dealing with mental health very well, and how it's still like a stigma if you admit that you're depressed, or if you admit that you struggle mentally, and you might need help. That's like a stigma, and it's just not talked about. It's not encouraged. It's kind of like, black people just kind of, when they go through these feelings, they just have to learn how to deal with it. Because if you tell your family or your friends or whoever, look, I'm going through something, I've been feeling like this for quite a while, I don't think this is normal, they're just kind of like, they just kind of brush it off, like, oh, maybe you need to go on vacation, or maybe, let's go out and have drinks. And it's like, no, sometimes a little bit more than that. It's a little bit deeper than that. And we need to stop the stigma with mental health issues in our community. And I thought that was a really good point that everybody made at the table. And then that led to Marcel talking about how, and I can't believe he said this. This was like shocking. He said that happiness comes secondary to commitment. And then he talked about his own struggles with depression. He says, like, in the last couple of years, he said that he has been more depressed than anything. That has been his, like, dominant emotion is depression. And I'm just like, wow, Marceau, this is deep. This is really deep. Now, when he said that happiness is secondary to commitment, that just kind of reinforced to me how him and his wife would rather be together unhappy than be apart happy. And I'm not going to sit here and say what they should and shouldn't do with their marriage, but it just says volumes, that it doesn't matter if we're happy, we're just going to stick together, because we just have to make a conscious decision just to stay married, to make this marriage work, whatever that means. And so they think, well, as long as we're together, we're successful. This is a successful marriage because we've chosen to stay with each other instead of throwing in the towel. And it's kind of like, okay, I don't know. And then it makes me think, if one of the issues that Tisha has with Melody, number one, like in the earlier scene, in the beginning of the episode, when she was telling Marceau how she wants him to spend more time with the family, and he kind of brushed it off, kind of like, whatever, I have to work. I have to create generational wealth for my kids. I wonder if, like, Tisha, it made her feel some kind of way that when Melody and Martell were together, from what we saw on the show, Martell went with Melody everywhere. He supported her in her business endeavors. Whenever she got an award, whenever she introduced a new product, Martell was there, front and center. Their marriage was falling apart completely, but Martell was always there, holding her purse for her, clapping, supporting her, sitting right there in the front row, supporting his wife when she was giving a speech on stage, when she was accepting an award, when she was doing all of this stuff. Martell, from what I could tell from what the show presented to me, that's what I could see, that he was always there supporting her. And when Tisha decided to go and dabble in business, I think she was going to do real estate. When she decided to go back to school, get a real estate license and do real estate, Marcel wasn't having it. He was not having it at all. And he didn't want her to do that. He wanted her to stay at home and cook and clean and take care of these kids. That's all he wanted her to do. And so I wonder if she felt some kind of way about that. Like, Melody had a supportive husband and she didn't. And now that Melody and Martell are divorced, I kind of wonder if Tisha is still feeling some kind of way about Melody, because she sees Melody kind of like she's happier than what she was before. And that, she got divorced. She was like, didn't care what people thought. She wasn't going to try to stay with the man that did her wrong, that made her feel bad, that took away her happiness, took away her joy. She wasn't going to stay in that situation. And so I wonder if Tisha kind of looks at that and is probably envious of that. Like, she had the courage to leave, and she's happy You know, she's happier, she's dating, whatever. And I wonder if Tisha thinks to herself, you know, could that be me if I decided to leave? And sometimes I feel like, and I don't want to compare Martell and Tisha to this couple that I had seen on a really old episode of Unsolved Mysteries, which ended up in murder. I'm not trying to compare this. I'm not trying to say that Martell's going to kill Tisha, but there was this couple where the man was extremely controlling, and he wanted his wife to stay home and cook and clean and take care of the kids. And he was very, very abusive. I am not saying that Martell is abusive, but this man had wanted his wife to stay home and be a housewife. And when she wanted to go to nursing school and be a nurse, he didn't want that at all. He wanted her home as a housewife. And some men may not value their wives as humans, but they won't leave them. You know, this man could have left. Okay, the couple that I saw in Unsolved Mysteries, this man could have left her. He could have left. He could have walked away and said, look, I don't want to be married to a nurse. I don't want to be married to a career woman. I want a housewife. And if you don't want to be that housewife for me, let's get a divorce. And I'll go find a woman that wants to be the housewife. He could have done that. That would have been the logical thing to do instead of murdering your wife. But my point is this, is that even though they don't value their wives as human beings who have their own minds, their own thought process, who have their own dreams, their own goals that they want to pursue, they won't leave them. And they don't want their wives to leave them. They want them to stay right there. So Marcel does not want Tisha to branch off and grow and become this, you know, successful career woman. He doesn't want her to do that, but he's not going to leave her. He would rather stay married to her and make her miserable then leave her and to let her be happy. You know, so even though, so the Scotts, Letitia and Marceau, talk about a lot about how we're together. We're going to choose to stay together. We believe in staying together. We're not going to throw in the towel. We're going to make this marriage work. We're not going anywhere. We're not going to leave each other. Da, 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 da. It's kind of like it's kind of like, you don't want your wife to do the things that she wants. You don't value her in that way where you're going to allow her to do the things that she wants to do. Not allow, but, you know, to help her do the things that she wants to do and support her. You would rather, you don't want to, you also don't want to leave her, and you don't want her to leave you either. So just because he doesn't walk away from the marriage, just because she doesn't walk away from the marriage, doesn't mean that it's a good marriage. Because they're both choosing to stay, and that is not a testament of a healthy marriage necessarily. That's all I'm trying to say. And when he said that commitment is secondary to happiness, that kind of solidified it to me. Like, yeah, these people don't care about being happy with each other, making each other happy. They just want to prove to the world that, hey, we stayed. We made it. We stayed married for 75 years, even though every single second of those 75 years we were unhappy. We stayed together. Okay, Marceau, in his confessional, he if he was asked if he was happy, he said in his confessional, he was asked if he was happy, and he said that he is content. He's satisfied. And I'm like, why? Why are you content and just satisfied? You have a wife that caters to you. You have beautiful, healthy children. You're pursuing your dreams and whatever you're doing with your business. Why are you just content? Which means that maybe he is suffering from some type of depression. You know, when everything is working out for you, when you're living the life that so many people would envy, you're still unhappy. So maybe he is suffering through some kind of depression, or maybe something is lacking in his life, you know, like being married to a woman that he could be absolutely, you know, crazy head over heels in love with. And he's not. He's happy. He's married to a woman that just satisfies his basic needs, sexual, hunger, I don't know what a company keeps him some company when he does decide to come home, and he's just content. He says he's just content. And he talked at the dinner table. He said that what was easy for him was not getting his hopes up high. You know, for him, it was better not to have high expectations, then you won't be disappointed. I was like, wow, Marceau, what a way to live. But it seems like he does have high expectations in his business. You know, he does have very high expectations in his business because he's like trying to pursue a lot business wise. But I guess in other parts of his life, he's like, you know, I'm not going to expect too much because I don't want to be disappointed. So I'm just going to stay, you know, content, satisfied. He called it at He said that staying at zero, he didn't know that staying at zero was risking depression. I don't know exactly what he meant by that. Staying at zero, he says, I didn't know that staying just at zero was risking depression. I'm not sure what that meant. I hope maybe one of the other reviewers that I watched can expound on that. But the whole point of this whole discussion, it was just like, Marcel isn't happy. And obviously Tisha isn't happy. But that doesn't matter as long as they're together. And the whole entire time they were having this discussion about happiness and depression and mental health. And even before that, when Marcel checked Lewis about the pillow talk, don't go run into your wife telling her the things that I said about my wife. Tisha just sat there and just looked at him. She just sat there with this. I couldn't even discern what type of expression she had. It was something like, obviously Tisha wasn't happy. Because I don't think that Melody would have allowed Martell to talk like that. And I don't think Kimmy would have allowed Maurice to talk like that. But Tisha just sat there and just looked at her husband. And that's where it all ended. So this was a sad episode for me. It was kind of sad, knowing how unhappy Tisha and Marcel really, really, really are. And how Marcel was just, coasting through life, not really happy. Tisha is trying to put in all this effort and is kind of going unappreciated and unnoticed. And it's really sad. Yeah, it was a really sad episode as far as Letitia and Marcel were concerned. And then Lewis and Tiffany just really irked the hell out of me. And that's that. So hopefully I will do another review for the next episode. And hopefully that you will join me again. See you later. Bye.